Hey guys, we are on a road trip right now to Louisiana, but we stopped at Buc-ee's and I had to get my hippo taco because this is like absolute life right now. I just wanted to go ahead and record something about the Idaho 4 case. I tried to record something the other day and I just haven't had the time to finish it, so we're just gonna go ahead and do my thoughts now. Let's talk about what's been going on because I feel like the updates that we have been getting are not as big as bombshells or revelations to the case like most people are acting like. And for anyone who's watched my videos on my take on the Idaho 4 case, y'all pretty much already determined the chronological order in which things happened. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions, and like I mentioned, we're going to get into these newest updates in the Idaho 4 case for a minute. So, I know that Ethan's family has come out, and they have a lot of questions about Dylan. And apparently there's a lot of mixed feelings about the questions that Ethan's family has about Dylan and what happened during that morning. And they have every right to ask questions, and they have every right to come forward and voice their concerns to the public. Just because there's a gag order doesn't mean that the families themselves cannot come out asking questions or say things, especially someone like a cousin. That's not Ethan's immediate family, but definitely someone who's in the circle and is hearing things. So at this point, don't you think that when it comes to them stating something as serious as they know for a fact that after Dylan stopped hearing noises, that she tried to contact all three of the girls and didn't get a response from them, and then instead of calling 911, she called somebody else over? Like, don't you think by now that they have the victims' phones, guys? Don't you think that Xana's family and Ethan's family and Maddie's family and Kaylee's family haven't talked to each other? Haven't compared and contrast information? I'm not going to sit here and call the family liars just because something that they're stating is kind of going against what a lot of people already have in their minds with this case. I'm not going to do it. I believe that what we are going to be hearing from the families, gag order or not, is most likely the actual truth to the timeline. And it goes back to Kim, the WSU mom, stating that her daughter received information and that there's other information coming out that several people were over in that house hours before 911 was called. Okay, so then let's go back to what Ethan's family is stating about how Dylan heard all these things. This was around the 4 o'clock hour in the morning, right? The PCA states around 4:17 was like the last time that she had woken up and heard something and opened the door, right? And then we know that the Hyundai Elantra goes speeding out of the neighborhood around 4:20. So around that 4 o'clock hour is whenever all those noises were apparently being heard, and she would have messaged the girls, gotten no response, and then called someone over pretty much around that same time frame, right? Like, we don't have times. We have no times except for that small part of the PCA about what she claims to have heard and done and the car coming in and out of the neighborhood. But other than that, when it comes to when they actually summoned friends over or any of those things, we don't have that information. But we cannot sit here and state that Dylan was too frozen to call the cops if she was coherent enough to text the girls and see what was going on and then know that something was wrong enough in order to contact someone else. Now, I know Ethan's family is stating that she called a guy to come over. I don't believe they're trying to state that she called her boyfriend to come to the house. That could be wrong. I've heard people in the comments in my previous videos stating that the reason they might not be releasing the 911 call is because it's Dylan's boyfriend, but there's nothing to verify that. There's nothing to say that. And I don't think he lives in that area, right? So she would have had to have contacted somebody that was most likely in one of the frats. And there is a name going around for who the person was that she apparently contacted, but the name is the same as Ethan's brother Hunter, but apparently it wasn't Ethan's brother Hunter. So then we have to ask, okay, is the name being circulated even correct? Because it's a little confusing, and we've already had name issues But we know from Ethan's family that not only Ethan's vehicle, but also his brother Hunter's vehicle is being kept as evidence for the defense. So if there is another Hunter involved, it wouldn't have been Ethan's brother, then who is it, if it's even that name? But, like I've stated, the families have the victims' phones. They would have seen if there was missed communications from Dylan at around the time that all this was going on. So why are there so many people doubting this information or being upset that it's coming out now? But it still goes back to the point that we're not getting told the entire truth about what happened that morning. Now, granted, the PCA was literally just enough to get an arrest warrant. We don't get told the whole story in that. And just because we've read a few sentences in the PCA about Dylan's timeline doesn't mean that we can really get like aggravated or mad about anything, even though granted I'm a little upset about an 8-hour time gap, especially with the family now stating that Dylan tried to contact the girls after hearing all these noises and then still didn't call 911 and called somebody else over instead. That follows what we've already been told in this case, like to a T. The DoorDash is what really freaks me out the most. That could literally just be a coincidence. It could have been ordered before anything was going on and then just happened to be showing up at around the same time all this other stuff was going on. There's a great possibility the two are not connected, and it's just so bewildering to our brains, the timing of the entire thing, that we're wanting to connect it, but it might not have anything to do with it whatsoever. That DoorDash showing up could be the reason why Ethan was even coming out of the bedroom. But then again, you'd have heard all these noises. You'd have heard this fighting, this screaming. These people didn't go down quietly. And if the Ring doorbell next door heard thuds and screaming, then someone in the house heard a lot more than whimpering. So again, we're not getting all the details in the PCA. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Dylan didn't hear more, didn't tell the cops everything that she heard, didn't say, yes, they were screaming, they were fighting with each other. We don't know any of that. We only know enough for him to have had the arrest warrant issued. That's it. But we've basically known. We've basically known this entire time. They were not asleep in their beds. We've talked about the chronological order based on the PCA. I don't feel like anything new has actually been talked about, which is why it's taken me a little over a week to even put a video up. I feel like this is stuff we've known, stuff we've discussed. It's just something else being talked about to keep the story going. But it's kind of unnecessary, in my opinion. And you guys know how I am with these things. But that's my take on what's been going on. Okay, we got to get back on the road. See y'all.